This thing on? Because it's getting ready to be on.
Hello everybody and welcome to Bell Ringer. My name is Greg. I'm your host. Your guest name today, Alex Gress from 43 North and Liz Tsai from HiOperator. We're talking about the 43 North competition, which the big event is at Shays on October 30th. Go to 43north.org if you don't have your tickets yet. But we're talking about the competition that day and then more in general the experience of companies, why it's important to our region, and all that awesome stuff. So they're great guests. This is an awesome episode. Thank you so much for listening. And that's it. Bye, guys. Alex, first tell everybody what is 43 North.
Greg, first of all, it's great to be here. Excited to be coming here in the month of October. It's an exciting month for us. 43 North is a couple of things. You know, on the surface, it is a startup competition. We invest $5 million a year into typically about 8 early stage, high growth companies. We bring them to Buffalo and we anchor and accelerate their growth with a whole suite of services. There is, their operating space, mentorship, advisory, business networking, helping them hire people from across the country to bring them to Buffalo. So that's it on the surface. I think it also stands for something, here in Buffalo. It's this region regaining its investment, right, in innovation, in entrepreneurship. It's an organization, along with many others in this community, that stand for something bigger, which is getting us back to our innovative roots.
And what year are you guys in now?
Yeah, we've been operating 5 full years, and starting in early 2020, we will welcome the year 6 class to 43 North.
So why is it important for our region and our community to invest in startups and prioritize that as we, change our economy from what many people know Buffalo as from, 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah, a couple of things. First, these are companies that are the next generation of companies here in Western New York, and they represent all different industry verticals, from customer service to consumer products to software to hardware companies. So I think it's creating the next generation of companies. I think second, when we look at the companies that are here and that are with us, they also represent, something that we're also recapturing, which is people that are not afraid of risk, not afraid of failure. They are people that are ready to grind it out, make things happen. And I think that's also something that's great for our community to see and to regain, right? Innovation, risk-taking, smart risk-taking is important. It's coming back to those roots.
Yeah, we just had Jack Greco from Techstars on, and he talked a lot about, the increased level of or ability to take risk and how that can improve, our region and not just the entrepreneurial ecosystem, but just in general. It's a mindset shift from some, maybe timid past behaviors or, fear of failing rather than, striving for success.
Yeah, they're billboards for collaboration. They're billboards for a way of dynamic thinking and moving forward, right? And that's something that benefits all aspects of our community.
So Liz, tell us a bit about HiOperator, and then we'll get into how you got to Buffalo.
Sure. So at HiOperator, we provide customer service. And we like to think of ourselves as a tech company disguised as a customer service outsourcing company. What that means is that customer service is a really sort of manual, artisanal industry. And what we do is we build software that makes customer service agents much better and faster. And it's using a lot of things like automation and machine learning and AI. But instead of replacing customer service agents with a chatbot or an AI system, we're actually using that to make customer service agents better and faster. So building the call center of the future, in a sense.
And you're a 43 North winner from last year. You've been here for almost a year now. What makes Buffalo a good fit for your company?
I think when we were first looking at Buffalo and 43 North, there were some obvious fits, right? Really economical cost of labor, ability to attract talent and come out here and hire. And we came out here mostly because it was an East Coast time zone, and we wanted to take our remote team and put them all under one roof. And we wanted to make sure that we could hire operational talent here. And Buffalo has been really great for that. But we've also been able to hire a good level of sales talent and software engineering and technical talent. And I think that's what's been really surprising and really great about Buffalo. It really is a micro ecosystem of everything you could find anywhere else.
Right. And we attract a lot of like back office and customer service type companies, and we always hear how well fit the workforce is for those industries, and things like the Eastern time zone and neutral dialect, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to see kind of the next wave of that industry also coming in through 43 North. So like we said, you're a past winner. When you came last October, I think it was earlier in October, was that the first time you had been in Buffalo?
I think I came once to Niagara Falls as a kid, and my
Okay.
mom took us to all of the Frank Lloyd Wright buildings.
All right, that's
But
not a bad
this
tour.
is
Very experienced Buffalonian here.
Yes.
Frank Lloyd Wright, Niagara Falls, all the highlights.
Yeah, those
Some
are-
of the highlights, I'll say.
Yes.
So I was recently talking with Sean from Kick Further, and it was his first time when he had come. And, he talked about working with the 43 North staff. They're a great team, but it is their job to sell Buffalo to companies. So he told us, an anecdote about talking to all the Uber drivers that he took and getting their sense of Buffalo. And he was amazed that not just the people from the 43 North staff were optimistic about our region, but everybody that he met. What was your initial experience, maybe outside of the Niagara Falls Frank Lloyd Wright trip, but here last October, what did you find?
It's really cold last October. But also, Buffalo is just incredibly hospitable, right? Yes, obviously from the 43 North staff and the startups that are supposed to sell it, but everyone you encounter is a little bit like that. They're proud of what they have in Buffalo, and they want folks to come out here.
We have warm people. Maybe a
Yes.
cold comment. Warm people.
Yeah, and I always view it as, Buffalo really, I don't have to sell Buffalo. So Buffalo will sell itself, and, I grew up here. I was proud to grow up here. I had a great, upbringing here. But like a lot of people in my story, I left. And I left for under 18 years. And, I took a view a couple years ago that I wanted to come back. And why? Because this was a chance to be part of the rebirth of this region. It's an amazing community. And I wanted my kids to be founders of companies. I wanted them to see something and experience things that I felt wasn't as readily available in the 90s when I graduated high school here versus what's happening now.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the thing about Buffalo is that it gets better the more you get to know it. Yes, I know a lot of people think back office Buffalo, customer service Buffalo makes sense, but I think it's important to know that Buffalo is a lot more than that. Like the level of tech talent and sales talent that you can find out here makes a lot of sense. I mean, it almost makes more sense to have engineering out here because there's great talent, and people don't stay in jobs for just a year. They stay, they grow with the company, and there's the willingness to do that in Buffalo that you don't see on the West Coast as much.
Right.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I mean, outside the talent that's physically residing here, and what we talk about at 43 North, we've helped create 550 jobs, I guess, over the last few years, and we're proud of those numbers. And when I talk to our team about helping these companies recruit and bring people to Buffalo and be a part of their talented workforce, I always say it's less about moving the deck chairs around Buffalo. There's also this amazing group of expats, right, that want to come back here. They are talented. They are software sales, engineers, data scientists, people that represent C-suite type roles, right, who have young families or are empty nesters. I mean, we see the gamut of people now. And I think what's happening now is you've got the physical rebirth of Buffalo from the real estate, the commercial real estate, the waterfront development, Seneca One Tower, all these things, which creates just an amazing backdrop to bringing them back here, right? Because that creates a little bit of tension, and then when they dig behind what's happening, there is more opportunities they would have seen years ago, right? And that's what we like, and we'd love to talk about Buffalo first, and if you come back here, there's opportunities for 43 North companies, opportunities for like large institutions, corporates, etc.
Yeah, I mean, we recently launched Be in Buffalo, our talent attraction initiative, and Liz, you were the star of our launch video. I heard a lot of great reviews on, which was awesome. But one of the messages we tried to get out in a lot of media interviews was that with kind of our rebirth and the renaissance of our economy, there's a career ladder here for people. It's not just you wouldn't just be moving to Buffalo for one opportunity, and there is this kind of growing ecosystem of companies that feed off of each other and like a real community as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about the event on October 30th and that week of events leading up to it, because I know you guys are going to be quite busy.
Yeah, we are definitely busily preparing for, the next 43 North Finals. So that's going to take place October 30th on the stage of Shays. If you're listening to this and you don't have your tickets, go right now to 43north.org. The tickets are free, but you need to have a ticket to come in to Shays, and it only holds 3,100 people. And I don't want to overpromise, but I will tease out a little bit. This is going to be this year's event. We're putting a little more emphasis around the production value. So think of Super Bowl meets Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and try to condense that into a really shorter runtime, higher energy, more production value. So we're excited about that. But that's the theatrical part, right? And that's because it's cool. You're Shays, and it's a fun night out to engage the community. And how often for free can you sit in Shays, right? And this beautiful theater that in and of itself is a great example of the rebirth of the city. But underneath that, right, is what's really happening, right? And Liz has an amazing first-hand perspective. That night you'll have 10 companies, right, who it's very meaningful. I mean, there's obviously the investment dollars. It's also, if they're at that point and they're in the 10, they're a company that has really done the work, knows why they want to be in Buffalo. They know what they want to achieve. And so the investment dollars aside, they're here for something bigger, right? And it's anywhere from customers to service providers to talent to the commercial real estate and all of that. So they want it for multiple levels. So, Liz, what was going through your mind sitting on the stage? I don't mean to take over the mic, but I mean...
It was exhilarating and terrifying, but also a great example of the energy and enthusiasm that Buffalo has to bring, right? I mean, standing on that stage, realizing that there are 3,000 plus seats that were all filled, coming from the city of Buffalo, rooting for you to possibly be part of the winners was an incredible experience.
Yeah, so we're excited. This is a group, so we're down to our 16. We have our 16 finalists. Geographic diversity is awesome. And coming into year 6. I mean, well, first of all, Liz, you guys have been operating from the West Coast to the East Coast, and you're the classic coastal city, example in terms of where you were coming from, where you were building the early stage of HiOperator. This group, really similar, 25% from the West Coast, 25% from New York City. Then we've got one company from Poland, and then we've got Chicago, St. Louis, and Milwaukee, just to kind of round it out. So it's from that perspective really, really neat.
And there's 16, and at one point you cut down to 10, and then on the night of the show, is it 8 winners?
That's right. So the day before, we changed up the timeline a little bit. I think last year with Liz, it's a big day. Mm-hmm. We went from, I think, the equivalent of 16 down to 10 that day. And so you probably had an hour and a half max being notified. Yep, being notified that you're going to go on the stage that night and pitch in front of like 3,100 people. And this year we're doing it the day before. We're going to go from 16 to 10 at Seneca 1, the new Seneca 1, the rebirth Seneca 1 tower, right, in their auditorium. And that's going to be a little more of an intimate setting. That one is only going to hold max 250 people. But we also thought, since we're moving into that building at the start of 2020, we've already publicly announced that, and we're excited to be in that building, that it would be a great place to house what we call the qualifying finals the day before. But then that following night, it's real. The reality continues.
And Liz, like Alex said, you only had maybe an hour and a half to know that you were going to be pitching in front of 3,000 people. The contestants this year will have a night to sleep on that. Do you think it helps or hurts? Is that a stressful night of sleep?
I'll be surprised if there's a lot of sleeping that night.
Yeah.
I guess. But like the whole thing building up to that, because it's not for the finalists. It's not just one day, right? It's a couple of days leading up to that, and it was a really collaborative, incredible experience. And not only getting to know Buffalo a little bit, getting to know the 43 North staff, but also all the other startup companies coming in from out of town, right? That was a great experience. The finals really, to some extent, are sort of the cherry on top of the cake, right? It's the last bit, and it's nice, but you get a lot more out of it than just that.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. And, one thing that's also kind of lost a little bit in the story of finals week, and we have to pull it up more than this year, because I think it's impressive in and of itself, is this year, the morning of finals, we'll have what we call the Upstate Startup Summit. And this year it's going to be close to 50 investors from across the country, who have given their time, right, who want to come to Buffalo. These are all national to international, VC investors, from pre-seed up to Series A, Series B round, financiers, who want to be in Buffalo. And they want to see that the caliber and the quality of the startup scene here to make real tangible investments. And so that Upstate Startup Summit, the morning of the 30th, I think is also a great chance for these investors to see what's happening from startups from Western New York up to Rochester into the Syracuse area. So we'll have about 50 startups, north of 50 investors that'll be getting together as well that morning.
And are a lot of the investors they hadn't come in previous years? Or do you have a lot of new people wanting to see?
We have a ton of new people. Yeah. A ton of new.
Yeah, so we just had an event. We had a bunch of site selectors in town and hosted a panel hearing their thoughts on it after, and it was incredible to hear how badly they actually wanted to come to Buffalo. When we extended the invite, people were jumping at it because there's such, I think a buzz nationally, or at least a curiosity about, what is actually going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And is it real?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I want all my friends and folks to come out here. We invited 2 of my favorite investors to come out as well. Super excited to show them Buffalo that we didn't just come here for the money. This is actually where HiOperator is going to stay and grow into the future.
Right. So, Alex, you mentioned you guys are headed into the Seneca One Tower. M&T also recently announced their move into there. What do you think symbolically it means for Buffalo to have, it's our tallest building, it's been dormant for a while, to not just have it being filled with people, but also these, the startups that are driving innovation and technology jobs of the future, really?
Yeah. When you think about what it takes to build like an entrepreneurial ecosystem, and there's a lot of times you'll hear us talk about what we do in terms of these words, entrepreneurial ecosystem, and there's different drivers of that. There's capital, right? There's the university, there's the corporate support, and of course there's density, right? So on one level there is physical density that is accomplished there in that tower, and that has an opportunity to have like people colliding, sharing ideas, collaborating, the 43 North companies, other startups that want to be there, the tech talent that M&T is attracting into their operations. I mean, all of that coming together, I think that's significant, and I think that's one aspect that's really neat about it. I think the rebirth of that building, is amazing. Again, we talked about this a moment ago, is a great backdrop to what these companies are representing, which is the next generation of businesses, customers, that's happening here. So that's super important. So I think it's a great example of what is happening today and going forward.
And physically, you are increasing your space with the expansion, and how can that better serve some of the companies that you're bringing here?
I think it's we're picking up definitely physically some more real estate, and also bringing together. Our operations have grown. As I said at the beginning, maybe we're at 550 jobs. If I think about Liz's class, and we talk about them in classes, the year 5 class. I think in total, we're just around 90 people in that year 5 class. When they came in the door, it was probably like in the 30s, right? So you think about that level of growth, and this is a building and this is a floor, right, that gives us a chance to accommodate like various forms of growth going forward.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Before I let you go, we have a blizzard round, hard-hitting journalistic questions. We'll go Liz and then Alex. If you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
I really don't eat very much ice cream.
You don't have to like the ice cream. What would you be?
What would I be?
This is definitely make up the response.
I think I would be vanilla.
Vanilla. Okay. Alex?
Oh, well, I probably should have thought of one in the last 1 second. Maybe something like a rocky road, Like, it's sweet, but, you got some chunks to it. You gotta kind of break through it a little bit.
Yeah.
That works. The rest will be easier.
Then the ice cream question.
We start hard. Book or TV show that you'd recommend?
The Real Housewives.
Wow, The Real Housewives.
Yeah. I think it really takes apart social interactions really well.
Interesting.
Okay.
I used to watch those on an iPad years ago when I used to do a lot of traveling.
Wow.
Download the Desperate Housewives. This is the early. And we were laughing about lots of international travel, and I had the Desperate Housewives. But let's not repeat that too much.
It's not like you're on mic.
Yeah, no, it's not like we're recording this. I think so. Look, people will talk a lot about books on like team development and all that. And I've read a bunch and lived by that. One book that I enjoy competing in triathlons, and so I read this book recently called The Iron War, which is like these two top triathletes that were competing in 1982 in a full Ironman, and they raced literally side by side for 11 hours. And what it physically, mentally, spiritually was like as they recant these stories, and what it was like to go through that. And so things like that I take a lot from.
That's an amazing answer. Text or phone call?
I think in general text, not just for personal communication, but also for customer service. It's actually the best thing you can do is put a text number up so folks call you less. Less frustration, less wait time, but also faster and higher quality responses.
All right. Text or phone call?
Depends who you are. Text is always the quickest way it gets me.
All right. Bills or Sabres?
Bills. The first NFL game I ever went to was a Bills game a couple weekends ago.
Very nice. Did they win?
They did actually with the Bengals.
Oh, all right. Good team to go to.
Yeah. For me, it's both. I'm not going to differentiate. No way. I'm in for both.
Very diplomatic answer. Hiking or skiing?
Hiking. I am the world's worst skier. I've lived in Europe. I've skied a lot of the top mountains there. I can ski very well. Turning is beyond me.
And you and I did a photo shoot with your dogs.
Yes.
And in our video, you talked about hiking with the dogs in the snow, which was one of my favorite sound bites that we got that day.
They love it. They're made for snow.
And how about you, hiking or skiing?
Skiing, hands down. That's part of what was great about coming back to Buffalo. And my wife was not a skier, is a skier now.
Perfect.
So,
converted?
Totally.
Last question, most important, chicken wings, drumstick or flat?
You gotta have a little bit of both. It's just not fair to only have flats or drums.
Well, we've had this conversation before, so I expected that. But
I'll just jump right. I go drumstick.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, so.
Thank you guys very much for coming on. Appreciate it. Bellringer is a podcast by Invest Buffalo Niagara, the region's privately funded, nonprofit marketing and economic development organization. Please rate this podcast, follow our social media channels, and read our blog at buffaloniagara.org for the best of Buffalo Niagara. Come grow your business with us.